It is Sunday sit-down time. With us now is Power Mizzou publisher Gabe DeArmond, covering all things Mizzou athletics. Quite the weekend for you and me as well. What'd you think of the way? What was your Saturday like?
Well, I mean, I did everything from home, but, I started about 9:15, and I think I finally got done about midnight. So, it was a long day, but it's good to have days with a lot going on that people are excited about. I mean, it's a lot better than the 6 months we had with nothing to cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Two top 10 matchups. We'll start with Mizzou men's basketball. Biggest win for the Tigers since when?
I don't know. I mean, they beat Florida, I think last year. I mean, it's a big win. It's the highest ranked win in 8 years, obviously. But I'd have to go back to that 2017 season. I'm sure there were, the Kentucky game that year was obviously really big, and they had some huge wins there. So this is a good win, but college basketball wins in December, I have a hard time, necessarily categorizing as huge until we see what follows it.
Well, where do you think the Tigers will be ranked? Beating a number 6 team, they're undefeated 5-0, obviously unranked right now, but I think that'll change tomorrow. Where do you think they land?
Yeah, they'll be somewhere, I think, around probably between 15 and 20, because realistically, if you look at it, there probably aren't 2 or 3 teams that have actually done more than they have on the court, but that's not the way these things work. People take weeks to get rid of kind of their preseason expectations and stuff like that. So I actually won't be – I'm not positive they'll be ranked above Illinois. That's how dumb polls are.
That's what Conzo Martin said last night in the press conference. He's not really worried about where they're ranked. But they are 5-0, and it's got a lot of Mizzou fans wondering, is this team for real? Do you think that, they can make a run and do something in the NCAA tournament this year?
Well, I mean, I don't know what more they could have done to convince anybody to this point. They've got a road win. They've beaten 3 probable NCAA tournament teams. The SEC right now, Tennessee's barely played, so we don't know much about them. Kentucky doesn't look very good. Florida, obviously, is going to look a whole lot different going forward after what happened yesterday. And you hate to kind of tie that to basketball, but it is, kind of a thing going forward. So I think the expectation for Missouri should now be finished in the top 4 in the league. And I don't see any reason they can't challenge to win this league. They've looked as good as anybody we've seen.
Conzo, seems not surprised at all by all this, and it seems like his opinion is if they didn't have injuries these last few years, they would be doing this in those years. Are you buying that, or do you think that this team is different?
I mean, he told us, they were good enough to win the SEC last year, and I never really saw it, right? Even before injuries happened, I didn't see it. Now, 2 years ago is different. When Jonte got hurt, that changed the whole thing, and I don't know if they would have won the SEC. They'd have been better. So injuries are a part of it, but also this is a team full of guys in their 3rd and 4th year in a situation where experience and playing time together really matter because everybody had such a weird offseason. So I think it's probably Missouri has a roster that was best built to kind of survive the offseason issues.
Well, Mizzou had 18 turnovers yesterday. They missed some key free throws down the stretch. Still pull out a win over the 6th-ranked team in the country. What does that say about the squad? That and they also had Jeremiah Tillman and Mark Smith foul out, and they still pulled it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they haven't really necessarily played their best yet, and they've won. Well, they won 4 games comfortably. I don't know that I'd call last night comfortably, but they did win. So it's definitely encouraging. There's a lot of balance. You don't know which guy's going to be the guy any given night. Now, I wonder if. I think that's good for the regular season. I do wonder if that's good for the tournament. I think by tournament time, you've got to have a guy or two that hey, if we need a basket, this is the guy that's getting the ball. But, yeah, right now, hey, they've done everything they could possibly do to convince people.
Let's move over to football now. Mizzou, found out that it is not as good as the Blue Bloods in the SEC, just getting pounded by Georgia. Coach Drinkwood says hope is not lost. He's quite the quotesman, but what did you think of, what were your takeaways from that game against the Bulldogs yesterday?
Well, I mean, going into that game, I said all week, this game's about Georgia. If Georgia shows up motivated and plays well, Missouri can't win. And Georgia showed up and played pretty well, and Missouri didn't have a chance. I mean, you look across the field, Missouri doesn't have more than a couple guys that would start on that team. I mean, Georgia has signed 67 4- and 5-star players over the last 4 years. Missouri signed 6. I kind of not felt bad for him, but listening to Eli Drinkwitz answer questions for 10 or 15 minutes, I just want to interrupt and say, I don't know what else he can say. I mean, they got beat in every facet. It wasn't close. 49-14 was actually probably the score was not representative of how lopsided that game was. I mean, it's not a game that requires a lot of analysis. Georgia was better. They have more talent and they played better.
Well, this Wednesday, Mizzou can kind of even the gap maybe a little bit with signing day. Coach Drinkwitz just coined the phrase "Merry Flipmas." What do you think the Tigers can do in these next couple of days to lock in some more recruits?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 guys out there that we're not sure, what they're going to do or if they're even going to sign early. And now you've got Gus Malzahn getting fired, and that might put a couple guys back on the market and coaching changes and all that. But right now we've got their class. I think it's ranked 20th. It's either 19th or 20th, which would be the highest rated class Missouri's ever had in the Rivals era, even if they don't add anybody else. Now, other teams are going to add some people too, so that could slip a little bit, but they are trending toward a top 25 class, which is something that Missouri's only done 2 times. He's recruiting at a level that hadn't been done here very often, which is obviously a positive sign. Now, the key is, look, to make a difference, you got to start stacking 2 and 3 and 4 of those classes on top of each other.
Gabe, what kind of deals you got going on at Power Mizzou right now for all those Mizzou fans out there?
Well, we had one going on Friday, big deal. But right now, we've just got the deal that, look, we posted 19 stories in a 24-hour period. We've got signing day coming up. It's a lot of stuff. We cover, obviously, every game, but also recruiting. We would like to think it's the most complete coverage a Missouri fan can find. So we just pitched that, hey, skip a couple of cups of coffee every month and try us out and give us a shot.
I can attest to that. Get your subscriptions with Gabe DeArmond and Mitchell Forty. They do a great job over at PowerMizzou.com. Gabe, thanks so much for joining us on a Sunday, and get some rest after a very busy weekend for you.
All right, Andrew. Have a good one, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back after this.